What are you drinking this morning?
I've had my coffee because Saturdays, without fail, 5:50 a.m. Like she
No.
slept until almost 7 yesterday. And then this morning, 5 every single Saturday
She's like, I'm ready to go. I'm a
together.
morning person. I mean, not 5 a.m., but I'm a
Yeah.
morning person too. And I'm like, I don't understand how people won't wake up until like 11 or 12. And then I'm like, my day's already halfway gone in my mind.
Literally, when my husband and I got married, I'm the same way. Like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. is like the latest I want to sleep. Like
Right,
9 is
right.
like, okay, this is good.
I had a rough night.
Yeah. But he could sleep until 11. So I remember I'd wake up and I'd be like, what do I do for 2 hours? I want to hang out with you. We just got married. I
Right.
want to be with you, but like,
But you're sleeping.
hello.
I
Yeah,
know.
you're
That's
sleep
so crazy.
half the day, but he's a night owl. So he wants to stay
Yeah.
up later. Even if I get good sleep, I can't make it past 10:30, 11. So
Right, right. Well,
anyway,
and
but
because
yeah, so
it's
I've
really
got
weird because I've had, oh, go ahead.
my sparkling caffeinated sparkling water. It's ginger and
Ooh.
lime. So it's like
Oh, nice.
it
That
gets you.
sounds so good. Ginger and lime is a great combo. Even with me like not getting the best sleep for the past couple of months and staying up late, sometimes anywhere between 11 and 2 or 3, sometimes 4. I would still wake up at 8, 9. It's like so
Yeah,
how do people do it? How do they sleep until
it
11? It's
is.
crazy. It's a skill.
Yeah, I know. It is a skill. It's a skill I do not have.
So how did
Um,
your husband adjust to parenting and especially in that newborn stage? Was he dying? Or, I mean, I guess it's kind of nice because then he could take the night shift because that was his
yeah,
natural. Yeah.
yeah. And I pumped because in the hospital, we were there for 2 weeks before we went home. And then she
Mhm.
had surgery at 6 weeks and then 3 months. So there was just too much going on to where the breastfeeding was not working. It was so stressful for me, like trying to do it. I was like, pumping is not fun, but at least I'm in control of it and I'm not trying to force her to do another thing that it just, you're
Right.
already going through enough, girlfriend, and this would be
And
so
you're still
sweet.
getting your
But
nutrition,
yeah,
no
exactly. It
matter
was
how you get it.
all, and they wanted to supplement her with formula anyways because she was
Yeah.
little. So it was like, you know what? This just works better. So anyway,
Right.
it did work out because he actually would take from like 10 until 3 or 4 a.m. with
Hmm.
her, and he would actually stay awake that whole time. But he would sleep until 11. So it was
Yeah, but
kind of
still, that's
lonely.
crazy.
Like the mornings were lonely because
Yeah.
he wasn't there until lunchtime and of course
Right.
with a baby. So it was hard, but at the same time it's like, okay, I did get my break, in the evening I got to
Yeah.
get a good chunk of sleep.
I
So
know I feel like it's
there
one
are
of those things,
trade-offs.
us as women, where it's like we almost have this idea of how perfect we want things to be. And it's like, I'm grateful for you taking the night shift because I do get to sleep, but I
Yeah.
still want this. But I still want
Yes.
that. Why can't I also have this? Why
I
can't I
want
also
it all. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, welcome to another episode of Get Mom Ready, a very special episode because some of our episodes are super practical, some of them are more fun. And this one I intentionally wanted because Amber is the most inspiring, encouraging mother that I know. And so I needed her to encourage and inspire all of you. So if you are a medical mom or if you're just a mom with a lot on your plate and you're feeling overwhelmed, Amber, I feel like, is the biggest encourager and just her mindset around how she navigates life as a medical mom and as a mom of multiple kids is incredible. So, all that to say, Amber and I have known each other technically since high school, but we really reconnected and became closer a couple years back because both of our kids have congenital heart disease and both of them are at Texas Children's Hospital. So, we've been able to kind of share our journeys together and encourage each other and just cheer each other's kids on as they've navigated their different circumstances. Unlike me, though, Amber also carries a lot. She has multiple children, as I mentioned. She's worked through some hospital stays, and she also is now choosing to homeschool her kids for the safety of her heart kid while she's working full time. So she's got a lot on her plate and she is still smiling. She is still positive. She is still an encouragement. She still takes time to care for herself. And so, all that to say, Amber, kick us off and tell us just a little bit. Well, and also, I will have you know, we had this conversation 2 weeks ago and I forgot to press record. So this is like a rerun for Amber and I,
That
but
was a practice. That was a
it
practice.
was a practice run. So, if you'll kind of run us through what Santi is her son that has congenital heart disease, what his journey has looked like, and kind of mostly the past year that's led you to the decision of homeschooling and working full time.
Right. Okay. So thank you for having me, Anna. It's been a journey. Yeah, it's really crazy because I was diagnosed, or Santi was diagnosed in utero at 18 weeks. So we knew this was coming. He didn't have a good prognosis at the time. Like they were like, he's not even going to make it 3 weeks. So we kind of were just like, in this holding pattern of like, okay, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? And so he was born at 32 weeks. I was like, as soon as I found out about his heart condition, I went to Google, of course. I'm searching everything. And this is
Oh, yeah.
before I feel like Reddit was like as big as it is right now. Cause I feel like nowadays you can search anything and like one of the first things that comes up is Reddit. So
Yes.
type in forum to see like other moms. I met this wonderful mom named Angela, whose daughter was probably like 5 at the time, and she had the same thing. She had congenital complete heart block like Santi, and she invited me to the Facebook group. So I was in there and I was like, what's going on? Like, what are your kids doing? How are they surviving? And everybody was just like, my kid got their pacemaker at birth. They got their pacemaker at 2 months, at 3 years. It was a variety of different things. So I was like, okay, cool. They get their pacemaker. This is a lifelong condition, so it's not to minimize it, but I'm like, you get a pacemaker that mitigates the heart block and you keep it
Yeah.
pushing. And that was our reality for 8 years. And then his pacemaker reached end of life in 2024. So we were like, okay, well, so he was 2 months whenever he got his permanent pacemaker. He was
Okay.
maybe 4 pounds at the time. And so he had to get a super tiny one. These things are made for adults. So he got the smallest one they had on the market, but that only had one lead that would go into his heart. And so, we have 4 chambers in the heart. And if this top part is beating, the thing with his condition is like the top parts and the bottom parts don't communicate to each other. That communication channel is like severed. And so that's
Okay.
why he needs the pacemaker to synchronize that. But if you only have one cord, so to speak, going into one part, it's still not communicating. We're kind of just
Yeah.
telling it to do this, hoping that they sync up. And so we were like, okay, now that he's larger, this is the perfect time to upgrade him to a more sophisticated unit to where both of the top chambers and the bottom chambers can communicate. We did that. Surgery went well. Everything was like business as usual until 8 months post op. We went in for a regular checkup and he was in heart failure. I think his heart was functioning at like 20% at the time. So they
Wow.
did medication for a couple of weeks to see if we could see any changes in his function, and it was still low. So they were like, all right, well, the next step would be to upgrade him to a different type of pacing system. And, in my mind, I'm like, he just had surgery last year. It's one of those things. It's like you trust the doctors, but at the same time, it's like, why didn't we just go here to begin with?
Right.
Like, and I feel
Exactly.
it's hard because I'm sure you've probably encountered certain scenarios where it feels like it's politics and insurance and like we got to check off these boxes before we get to this point.
Try
But
all the lower, like you said,
less
medication,
invasive or
the
whatever.
least
Right.
invasive, but then it ends up being so much more for the
For
kid
the
because
kids,
they have to keep going
exactly.
back. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm like, and I know that like 1 year apart in surgeries, like there are kids that go through surgeries like month after month after month,
Yeah.
but it's still hard when it's your kid. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, let's try this. I think I did some research, and in like 80 something percent of the cases, whenever they upgrade to this type of pacing, where they will have one lead in the top or one cord in the top and two in each of the bottom chambers. So it helps with the synchronization. It mitigates heart failure by like 87%. And so
Wow.
I was like, okay, maybe this will do it. Nope, not for Santi. We went through and we gave it about like 6 weeks or so, or maybe like 2 months. I know in July, like he had the surgery in April, almost exactly a year from the last surgery. And then we would go monthly, May, June, July. And by July, we hadn't seen any improvement. So then at that next appointment in August, they were talking about transplant. And I was just like,
How
I
did
go
we
back
get
to the
here?
Facebook group, yeah, and I'm like, transplant, because like, what are we talking about? And this wasn't their first time bringing it up. Back whenever we first noticed the heart failure in January 2025, they were like, okay, these are the steps. This is the route that we'll take, but this could look like this. This could end up to a point where he would need a transplant. Because I think I just remember in utero, like I was 21. or 22 whenever I was pregnant.
Wow.
I don't even remember all the things that they said were wrong, but they were like, the blood is flowing back this way, and he's got this issue, and he's got this issue. And I'm just like, all the words spinning around
Oh
my
yeah.
head.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I know like he has a very large aorta and he has heart failure, but he also still has that initial issue with the communication. And so whenever I heard transplant, I wasn't prepared for that because I didn't see any other families dealing with that in that same group. But at the same time, I do see how it would be beneficial more for Santi's case than other children's because he's
Sure.
battling multiple things. And so it's like, if it were just that one issue, I'd probably be like, is there something else we can do? Let's hold off. But like
Yeah.
with transplant, that alleviates his heart failure. He no longer needs a pacemaker. His aorta
Mhm.
isn't as large. So it's like this is beneficial in multi area. So
Yeah.
so then in August, we start going through the transplant route and they said, okay, well, we'll reach out. There's like steps that you have to take. First, they have to apply to insurance. Insurance has to say, okay, yes, we are willing to undergo the diagnostic testing. And I think there was like 12 different disciplinaries we had to go through to see if he was a candidate. And it was really just like, I guess, a baseline assessment as well, because with transplant, like so many things can change. So we went to occupational therapy, physical therapy, psychology, neuropsychiatry, and just so many people evaluated him. We did that all of October. I think we did it like we divided it up between maybe 2 or 3 appointments. So
Yeah.
those days were like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. But I was like, let's
Back
get
to
it
back.
done because you're paying for parking, you're taking the time out to drive out there. I live in
Yeah.
the Katy area. So we did that. I remember October 22nd, it was a Friday. Through my chart, we got the notification that he was approved as a candidate and insurance signed off on it as well. So he was going to actively be listed. He would be listed at a lower priority, 1B, which is like the kids that need a transplant, but it's not super urgent. They're at home, they're living life. We know this is on the pipeline, but you don't
He
need
can
one big
live
car.
semi as usual. I mean,
Right.
very limited, but yeah, he can be at home, not in the
Right. He doesn't
hospital.
need like any specific medications or
Yeah.
anything like that. So that was October 22nd. October 29th, he's at school. I get a phone call from the school saying that he's dizzy, he was lightheaded, he had blurred vision. They took his blood pressure and it was pretty low. So I call the transplant coordinator and I'm like, hey, this is what the school's saying. Like, do you want me to keep him here and just watch him? And she was like, no, let's just go ahead and bring him in. Even whenever we got there, the doctors were coming in, the ones that we see in his regular appointments, they're coming
Yeah.
in and they're like, we might just keep him like overnight to evaluate him and see how things are going. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I wasn't prepared, but at this time, I'm also pumping because I had a baby like a month ago or a month and a half ago. And so I'm pumping. I've got my little cooler. I've got everything ready, but I'm in no like position or mental state to think that we're having an extended stay. But after
Correct.
they did it wasn't even an echo. They did an x-ray and they just saw how large his left ventricle was. Like it was basically touching his rib cage, like just taking up that whole space. And they were like, yeah, I think we're gonna, it might be that time
Admit.
he's
Yeah.
hospitalized until transplant. And I was just like, how? What? Like, what is even going on right now? So, just knowing that I've been very, very, very fortunate. I don't even think I've told you this, but there was a girl that I went to high school with. I remember we had 10th grade social studies. It's funny because we were talking about your mom and social studies. I think
Yeah.
social studies just connects people, but
Bringing people together. Yeah.
right. But we had social studies together in the 10th grade, and we didn't really talk much in there. It was just like we were
Yeah.
classmates.
Yeah.
And her children also have some type of cardiomyopathy. It's not dilated cardiomyopathy like Santi, where his left ventricle is very large. Both of her kids have a genetic condition where it's like hard. So that it's like
Wow.
restricted cardiomyopathy. And so their heart can't pump the way it needs to. She was inpatient at Texas Children's for like 7 or 8 months, and her daughter couldn't get the pump that Santi has. And so she was just, yeah, it was really tough on them. And the way
Mm.
that she even found out about her kid's heart condition is just like mind blowing. But she was a very, very good like support system and helped me navigate this. She was like, when you get in there, child life is going to be like your best friend. Ask them about Deck My Room, where they come and decorate the
Yeah.
bedrooms for them and all the things. So I'm so, so fortunate. I mean, it sucks, you know, because her child had to go through something. And just like you and I, it's like it's unfortunate, but it also is intentional, you know. I feel
Having
like
that community.
yeah, like God
Yeah.
places these people in your lives, and it's crazy that it's like I never thought you and I would be like in this position where we're
Right.
as close as we are right now, you know? And yeah, it's really crazy. But
Yeah.
she was one of the people that told me about like kind of just the transplant process. I went back and I was a part of her kids Facebook group, but I didn't like keep up with the updates because they weren't coming up in my algorithm. So I
Yeah.
went back
Yeah.
and I literally read every single post. And
Yep.
there were times where her daughter got sick. If she gets sick, then that means she has to wait until like you can't leave the room. You're also listed as inactive on the list. And so that's where my decision came in
Mm.
to homeschool the kids. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't want to risk it. You know, we all need to be as safe as possible.
This is the most important thing right now.
Right.
And it almost makes it an easier decision because it's like life or death comes
Right.
before the social experience. It comes before the academics. I mean, we're talking about your kid getting a heart, like
Right.
the heart of your body. It's a big,
Exactly.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's one of the things that, like you said, it made it easier to make that decision. But I hope this also shows my other children that when one of us is facing some type of adversity,
Mhm.
we all drop and, you know, we do whatever we can to help whoever
Yeah.
it is that's struggling.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It is such, I mean, we talked a little bit last time. It is, they all have to make sacrifices because of this experience. And that has to
Right.
break your heart as a mom to like, okay, all of us are suffering. But to your point, that is such a incredible gift and lesson for them to learn like community. And we go through this as family. And just like
Right.
I'm doing this for him and all of you are doing this for him, I will do the exact same thing for you when
Exactly.
if the day comes that you need me, all of us
We're
are
all
dropping
there for
everything to
you.
be there. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. And I hope that's
that's
the message that
incredible.
resonates. But for those that don't know, like Santi's not my oldest. He's 10, but I also have a 12, almost 13-year-old. And, you know, middle school, like you're playing sports. He missed out on basketball. He missed out on running track. He's missing out on the social experience, you know, and I'm just hoping that he does realize, you know, that this is what we do for all of us. This isn't
Yeah,
specific and unique to Santi, although he's the one going through it right now. Like, if you are going through it, we're all around you, you know?
yeah, yeah, 100%. I want to go back. You mentioned a couple of really hard things where you smiled as you were saying them. And I want to talk about how you've gotten to the point where that is your response because you brought up one, finding out about Santi at 18 weeks, 18
Hmm.
weeks. You're a young mom. You already have a kid at home, a toddler. You have what, a 3-year-old at
A
home
2-year-old, yep.
and um and you found out essentially the what they told you is he might not make it. It that is a mother's greatest fear. I mean that is the mother's greatest fear. And then you talked about having your youngest as you're learning about you have your youngest and then y'all are going through the transplant process 1 month apart. Like you have
Right.
a newborn and you're finding out you're going to be admitted and you're navigating how the transplant process works, which is so much information. It is just impossible to wrap your head around to begin with. And you're doing it postpartum while feeding a baby. And then you're learning you have to stay in the hospital and you have all these other kids at home, including a newborn. So I want to hear this is what inspires me about you is that you say all of those things and you're here smiling and so yeah, just talk about that.
I think I think the hardest or I guess like the biggest eye opener for me was my first pregnancy. Um when I was at that time I was 20 turning 21. I had a rash all over my body, you know, the doctor thought it was eczema, so I was treating it with eczema and then I decided I wanted to have a natural birth with a midwife and the water,
Yeah.
I was going to do all the things. So I wasn't under an MD care. And this is like no shade on midwives or anything, but
Yeah.
the care is just different. And so I
Yeah.
was like, I do have this rash. And she was like, oh, I think you need to go see a dermatologist. Well, I wasn't able to get into a dermatologist until 3 months later. And by that time, this rash is continuing to spread. And I don't know what it is. I'm on the internet searching. And from what I had concluded, I was like, oh, this is a pregnancy specific rash. And so I had joined communities. I was like, I know what this is. And then I go to the dermatologist, get a biopsy, and find out I have lupus and Sjogren's. I'm going to be high risk. There goes my water birth.
Yeah.
And it was just a big eye opener to like, you can plan as much as you want in life, but you really never know what's in store for you. So I think that's also just helped me approach life and life circumstances. And it's funny because I've been telling people like Santi was born in 2015 and all of that happened last year was 2025. So I'm like, is this a every 10-year thing? I got to go through like a crazy
Mm,
year, like, is this what's going on? And it's
wow.
crazy too because like, I remember whenever Santi went through his first pacemaker revision in 2024, and I told him, he was in the hospital and he's like, this sucks. I don't like it. It hurts. And I was like, I know it hurts, baby, but we're so fortunate that you've gone 8 years without any complications, without any surgeries. And like the way that I see it is maybe it's just our turn. We're
Mhm.
taking that burden off of another family that has gone
Mhm.
through things and now they get a break and it's our turn to experience this, not knowing that the next year would be all of this too. Now I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm good. Like, I think we've had enough of our turn.
Yeah,
But
I
I mean,
know, right?
it's just life. You can't really predict it. The only thing you can do is smile through it and keep it pushing. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's also not the worst case scenario.
I think, yeah, I think that is so much of it is when you do live in hospitals and you are in these communities of other moms navigating all, because at Texas Children's, especially, I mean, maybe it's like this at all kids' hospitals and cardiology centers, but all the kids there, they range from wheelchairs to mental disabilities to cancer to heart. It is the entire spectrum of quote unquote disability. And you can see things that are potentially quote unquote worse, harder, but those parents are going through it too. Like everybody's just
Right.
doing what they need to do for their
It is so
kids.
crazy. It's so crazy to hear other mom stories. Like there
Yeah,
are, I don't know, I think maybe like 32 beds or so on that floor. And you hear other mom stories and I know like you hear my story and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how you did it." I hear their stories. Families traveling from other countries that have now been
right.
for over a year. A mom that's pregnant and she has a 1.5-year-old now being hospitalized until transplant. So that means indefinitely because they can't say she's 37 weeks pregnant and they have the same insurance, but they're telling her, you can't deliver at TCH. You have to deliver 30 minutes away. And it's like, my daughter's in the hospital. I'm about to have this baby. Like, and then just the thought of like, what does that look like? Texas Children's is so great to where if you do have a baby under one, they can be in the hospital with you, but still, like, that's not ideal. Like,
No.
whenever I first got pregnant, I thought I was going to be at home. I mean, it's already stressful enough having two under two, but like
Yeah,
now I have to do this in the hospital. I
right.
even people that have one child and they have a toddler in the hospital, I look at that and I'm like, how? How do you do that? That was your reality. That I've never experienced that. I can't imagine experiencing keeping a toddler entertained. Like Santi, I mean, everybody, it's hard, right? Your child is in
Yeah,
the hospital. It is hard no matter who you are and what
period.
the circumstances. You have a toddler in the hospital. Yeah, it's hard. You have to keep them busy, but they probably won't remember as much. Santi's
Yeah,
going to remember everything, but he's chilling on his phone watching YouTube all day. So
right.
there's a trade-off in every
Exactly.
scenario. And so it's nice that we're all just like, we can all recognize, I don't know how you're doing it. I have no clue how you're going through this, but that like acknowledgement of how difficult it is for another mom also helps bring you together.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It is one of those things that I still can't put words to, but people all the time are like, who don't have kids in the hospital, just how do you do it? You're so strong. And in my mind, I'm like fighting those words. I'm like, I don't feel that way. Like I don't feel strong. I don't feel like I'm a better mom than anybody. Like,
Right.
in a lot of ways, I've had to sacrifice, just like you're saying, a lot of the ways that I probably would have parented. I've chosen to sacrifice them for the,
Right.
because we've lived in the hospital. So it's like there are certain ways about the way that I parent that are a product of, hardship that we've gone through. And for example, like in the hospitals, it was like, yeah, unlimited iPad time, like even at 2 years old, which I would have never done if we were just at
Right.
home. And
Right.
so it's kind of that trade-off of like, I actually feel a lot of shame a lot of times for the way that I parent because
Right.
it's so different than the way a lot of people parent. But I have to go back and remember, and I have good friends that remind me, like, hey, we also, like, yeah, our kids don't watch any TV, but guess what? We've never lived in the hospital, so they can go play outside 24/7. They've never had to go through something where,
Right. And like not even just living in the hospital, they don't have to get labs. They
right,
don't have to
yeah,
go back to the place on a
right,
regular basis where they
right,
did stay, and who knows what's going on in the kid's mind where it's like, especially in like Santi's scenario where it's like he would always say, "This is so crazy. I'm here." I mean, he had a good experience up until his surgery in December, but from October
yeah,
to like December, he was just like, "It's so crazy. Like I'm here and I'm staying here all because I felt dizzy." But then
mm,
now they go through something difficult, a surgery that's harder to recover than they had anticipated. And now they're like, is it because I got admitted over something I felt was so small? Now, whenever I go back for an appointment, are they going to see something that requires me to be admitted? It's like,
yeah,
there's so much anxiety I feel like that goes in for our kids.
yeah,
But yeah, you parent differently. And there's also a grieving process, like you said, where it's like this isn't what I thought. I didn't think
yeah,
this is what parenting would look like for me. I thought
yeah,
I would be, oh my gosh, especially like that was a big grieving thing for me. Like how I said I was going to have a water birth with the midwife.
yep,
And they're like, no, you're high risk and you're having a hospital birth. And then I have preeclampsia. So now you're also having a C-section. And then I get
wow,
pregnant with Santi and I don't have my rash. So I'm like, okay, cool. Everything's great. 18 weeks. Now he has a heart condition. And it's like, here goes another C-section. So if I did want to go for a VBAC, that's out the window. And
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of like realization. And I guess I've learned to not really place expectations on things anymore because
yep.
it's like you just don't know. And that kind of just sets yourself up for failure. You can be optimistic about things, but you can't be attached to them.
Yes. Yeah. I fully agree. I feel like that has been one of my biggest learnings too, is just expectations out the window. Like they're
Right.
not helpful, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe it's different. I haven't had an experience where I'm not quote unquote a medical mom, so I don't
Right.
know. And you really haven't either. I mean, you
I
were kind
did though. I mean, I
of,
did.
well,
Because
even in,
although like with Matthew, he came at 36 weeks and 5 days or something like that.
yeah.
So he was like, late term preemie. He went to the NICU for 8 hours for observation, came home with me, and that
Oh,
was it. Like
okay.
it was just
Yeah.
like, okay. And I think that also like not clouded my judgment, but for a long time, I was like, even after Santi, I was like, oh, my lupus flares while I'm pregnant. Like it's just a weird thing that happens while I'm pregnant. And then reality hits you. No, it happens under stress. So after Santi's surgery in
Mm,
2024, I've been in an active flare up and then going through a pregnancy in an active flare up. It's been crazy, but like I have had that experience. I've had it at
yeah.
least to some point where it's like I like that another thing where it's like even though we're both medical moms, even though we both not even medical moms where it's like my kid has a neuro condition and your kid has a heart condition. No, we both
Yeah.
like we both go to the same floor on a regular
Yeah.
basis at the same hospital, but I still can't
Yeah.
imagine my first child going through this. Like,
Yeah.
at least I got that experience where it's like, okay, this was a little weird and
Mm.
a little different than I expected, but everything's still great.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so like, yeah. And then I think also like, Santi is 10, Anastasia's 4. So you
Yeah.
see there's a big Santi's gonna be 11. So they're like almost 7 years apart. And that's why.
Yeah. No,
That's
I
why. Because I was
100.
like, I am done. After Santi, I was like, never again. Even though it was
Right.
very smooth sailing, it's a lot to think about like, am I gonna have another kid and do this to another child? And like,
Exactly.
yeah, there's just so much mourning that
It,
comes into like parenting with a kid, or just having
yeah.
a kid struggle, medically. It's hard. It's like you have guilt. You have guilt for even though it's not anything you controlled, it's still guilt that you have this because of me.
Correct. Yeah.
Guilt of this isn't the way I wanted to parent you. So you have to let
Yep.
go of like what you saw for yourself as a mom, what you saw for your child. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I know it is a lot of, again, and going back to the expectations, that's where it's just like, you know what? We can't control it. So I'm going to stop. We can try to have a positive mindset. And
Right.
maybe that's kind of the answer of like, yeah, what I asked you is when you do have to release so much expectation, you do just kind of learn instead of having an expectation for something, I'm just going to choose positivity. Like, what can I
And
look at?
faith. Faith.
And
You
faith,
have
yeah,
to have faith. You have
100%.
to have faith because a lot of times things aren't going to make sense and they might not make sense for years later. I think
Yeah,
last time we talked about this, my mom is a nurse and
yeah,
she worked her very first job was in cardiac
yeah.
and she worked in the cath lab and all of that. She still remembers every single medication. She's been in psych for like 15, 20 years. So she hasn't even been in cardiac for so long. But while Santi was going through this, she was like, okay, what medication is that? Okay, because whenever we gave them to adults, we would give them at this time. And she still remembers everything like that. And so it's
Wow.
like back whenever she first became a nurse and got her first job, I'm pretty sure she wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to work in cardiac. But who would have known 30 something years later that this information would be beneficial. So it's like you
You
just have
need
to have
her.
that faith. Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to have that faith that all of this is for some purpose, whether it's like to connect with other moms, to show you that
yeah,
you're not out there alone,
yeah,
whether
yeah.
it's to exemplify to other people, this is how you navigate life. I mean, who knows? But
And there
you
could be a million reasons, but
can,
yeah.
but with
And
a
some of them we
positive
might never
mindset,
know. Yeah,
with
yeah,
that positive mindset and faith, you use it for your good, whatever
yeah,
it is. You
yeah.
you are equipped to use your situation and your experience for the greater good.
100%. And I think for the kids too, going through this, I think all the time, I'm like, man, this could all be for Emmy. Like, this could be the exact, I mean, it clearly is the way she was supposed to be born. This is how she was
Right,
born. So there's a reason for it. And it might be, I don't know what she's going to do with her life, but for whatever reason, this is a part of her story. And how could it impact, hundreds and thousands of other people, hopefully?
right,
Or even just her being friends with other people, or maybe she and Santi become doctors one day and they get to help
right.
other
Who
kids,
knows?
or we don't know. But I do think that's a huge part of why a lot of people who go through hard thing, which everyone goes through hard things. Don't misunderstand me. Every life is hard, period. But moms who go through seeing their kids struggle, I do think do find a lot more positivity just because of what you said. I think yeah, it's the way we have to survive. It's the coping mechanism, but it's also really healthy. Like, I think it's a
Right,
good thing.
right.
So in a way, I have a lot of gratitude for the situation that we're in
It
because
definitely makes us resilient. I don't want to say more
yeah,
resilient, but it definitely makes us resilient whenever you learn
yeah,
to release any expectation or attachment to outcomes and what they're
yeah.
going to look like.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And even placing expectations on our kids, it's like that goes out the way. Like, it doesn't matter if I was hoping you'd play soccer. You're
Right,
like, you can't
right.
play soccer. So sorry,
Exactly.
whatever it is. So, on that note, kind of, what else do you feel like all of the experiences that you're going through and have gone through have taught you about yourself?
Oh, man. I think just seeing how resilient I am, I think I mean, it's not even me. I guess it's more so people communicating to me like, "Oh my gosh, you are incredible. You're so strong. All the things." And I'm like, "I guess I am," but also learning to give myself a break, kind of like how you said. Like
Mm,
there has to be that
Grace.
reality check, I guess. Yeah, like that I'm doing a lot and I'm juggling a lot, and everything is not going to look a certain way. It's okay to be tired. It's
Yeah.
okay to say, I am tired, not today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I guess just navigating that and finding space for myself where I can.
Mm,
I don't, I have, there's like by no means have I mastered this. There's still a lot of room for improvement, especially whenever it comes to finding space for myself. But like, I think there's a shift that happens whenever you have so much going on, whenever you are working and you've got so many people depending on you. Your what fulfills you looks a little different. So
Yeah.
it's like going to the park and taking my daughter to the park and seeing her run around and be happy, that fulfills me. You know,
Mm,
so even though it's not exactly me time where like I'm in a spa or I'm getting my nails done, there's times and places for that. And so just learning to listen to my body and recognizing what it is I need, whether it's I
mm.
need time away and I need time to myself, or I what will fulfill me most right now is seeing my kids happy and running around and playing and getting along and just making memories.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. So talk a little bit about your homeschooling. You're working a full-time job. And you're a very high capacity person. So before, I guess 2025, you're probably able to work at a pretty strong capacity. You had your three kids at the time.
Hmm.
But you're probably able to work pretty consistently. You probably had high goals for yourself. You're trucking along. How have you been able to, one, decide what deserves your attention in this season when you've got a lot of really important
And
things? Like
everything
all
needs
of
it.
them are important. Every single
Right.
thing is important. And how have you redefined success for yourself? Because you probably used to be able to get through work and feel like you were super accomplished and going above and beyond and then be present with your kids. And now it's like you probably are split. At least I can imagine
All the
being,
time.
my mind is just split all the time if I had all those things going on. So, how do you decide what deserves your attention? How do you cope with redefining success? Because you just can't do everything at excellent, or at least
Right.
what excellent used to look like.
Right. That's funny because that's definitely what I'm still navigating right now and reminding myself of literally daily. Like,
Mhm.
so first, how do I decide what needs my attention? I feel like I'm constantly, and I think this is like a part of motherhood, but for me, it feels heavier now because there is so much going on. I feel like I'm constantly chasing, like I'm constantly
Mhm.
playing catch up, where it's like before I felt I had a little bit more control. This is what things are going to look like. And I don't think it's particular to Santi's situation okay, I don't think it's particular to Santi's situation and me working or Santi's situation and having a newborn. I think it's more so just having a newborn. I think that's
Mhm.
really, or not a newborn, but like
Yeah.
that's just challenging. I forget that like how challenging that first year is just because it's like constant change, like they're constantly growing and they just grow at a quicker rate than any other point in time in life. Whenever it comes to prioritizing, I just honestly go with whatever needs it at the time. But I've also the thing that I'm struggling with the most is redefining success or what success looks like for me professionally. And
Yeah.
I'm as of even yesterday, like I was talking to my sister about it, and I just have to realize that I am in a challenging point and time in my life where I feel like most moms wouldn't even work, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
just with all that's going on. And so I am giving myself grace and cutting myself a little bit of slack to be like, hey, it is what it is. I work from home. And
Yeah.
another thing I could touch base on and have a whole segment about is clinical research. Like that's what I work in, but I also participate in as many trials as I can. I've participated in them for heart block. So that's what it's called, complete heart block. I've participated in that with Anastasia, my third baby. That's the only way I got through that pregnancy. Goodness, because
Mm,
oh, I was so paranoid
the
that she would have
fear.
heart block.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I participate in that. I participate in lupus trials, like whatever I can do to advance medicine, because it's like without people participating in those, Amy wouldn't
Yeah.
probably have the surgeries that she's had. Santi wouldn't have his pacemaker. He
Yep.
wouldn't have his LVAD. And so the things that keep our babies alive are because other people participated.
Mm,
So, anyways, but
yeah.
I'll
Really
go back.
passionate about that. Yeah.
Yes, very. Oh my gosh, I could talk about
Yeah.
that forever. But yeah, so I mean, I'm just I have had to redefine what success looks like. And like I said before, listening to my body and just going with what it is I need. If I want to step away from my desk to go cuddle with my babies, I'm gonna go cuddle with my babies. It is
Mm,
what it is. Got my work phone on me. Ping me if you need me, but there's nothing before it used to feel like, oh my gosh, there's so many fires to put out at work and I'm the only firefighter. Now I'm
mm,
like, hey, like I guess maybe that's the mom community too, where I'm like, someone else, like, it's not only me, someone else can handle it.
yeah.
This is, or even recognizing this isn't a fire. For me,
Mm,
everything that was that needed my attention was a fire. So it was like, I
Yep.
have to do it now. It's immediate. But now I'm like, I've got time. I can get to it tomorrow, And there's
Wow.
also something very special, very stressful, but very special about having all of my babies at home. When am
Yeah.
I ever going to have this time? So even in those moments where I get super stressed, I've decided that Matthew will go back to school, go back to public school this upcoming school year, because it is a lot, just having everyone at home. But I'm also so grateful for the opportunity to do this. Most moms cannot. I'm grateful for the ability to pivot any point in time that we need to. He can go back to school and like if we realize that's too much, you're getting sick, you're bringing in too much, then we just pull you right back out. I mean,
Sure.
it's like
Yeah.
there's that flexibility too, right? You have to be able to be flexible, but I also have a career that allows me to be flexible. Not
Yeah.
every mom has that ability where it's like, I'm sure there's many moms out there that have been in this transplant situation and they're like, the doctors tell them, we prefer for your babies to stay home for a year because that's whenever rejection is the highest. And they're like, well, I have to go back after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then the paranoia of being at work, like, what's going on? What's going on? I hope everything's,
Right.
like I can't imagine. So I love having the ability to make a choice, be
Yeah.
it through my career. Right now, my mother-in-law is here with us, and she comes whenever she comes, she stays for like an extended amount of time. So she'll stay for a few months, and it's like, it's just so great to have her. It's great to have my mom. It's great to have my dad. He takes Anastasia on Tuesdays to gymnastics. They spend the whole day. So I have so much support and without that, I don't know how I'd do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a couple things there that you said that I love, which is I do feel like when circumstances stretch your capacity, you figure it out. Like you might have never needed your in-laws or your parents to do all these things. And so without Santi needing to be home, or when you were in the hospital with him and you needed other people to be able to be with your other kids, you would have never called on them to be like, oh, hey, come take Anastasia to gymnastics. But
Right.
when you're in a situation where you need to, you do. You just figure out what's around you and you call on those resources. Cause I can just hear other moms thinking, oh, well, I don't have access to that. And it's like, okay, maybe you don't have family nearby, but maybe your job would let you work remote if you had certain circumstances, or maybe your brain would just realize work isn't important right now. My kids are. And so you stop working. And I just think until you're pushed to a certain limit, you don't really know what you're capable of or what your community is capable of or all the
Mhm.
resources you do have access to that you don't need to use them. So you're not going to. But in
Right.
reality, I think that's a huge part of our strength as medical moms is just like, well, we've got a lot of support because we need it. We just
Right.
call in the troops because you physically can't do all of the things. And so you do have to rely on outside things that in normal circumstances you just probably wouldn't, you know?
Well, and then the funny thing there too is like I am not good at all at calling in the troops
Yeah.
at all.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I am
Me
always like
neither.
I'm holding a coffee, I'm pushing a baby in a stroller, I got my toddler on my hip and I'm pushing the door and someone's like, "Can I get that for you?" I'm like, "I got it." Like
Okay. Yeah.
that is my typical response. I don't think of, oh, this is what, like, these are the ways that I need help. And I think part of that is the fear of being let down, the fear of someone saying, yes, I will come and help you, and then not showing up. So I would say, even for those of you that are not medical moms, or even, I mean, for anybody that's watching and someone that's going through a hard time, just offer something because a lot of times we are so deep in what it is that we're going through. It's kind of a tunnel vision that we can't even
Yes.
see other ways people can help us, especially being the moms. Like moms, I feel like, every parent has their role, so to speak, in how the children view them and
Yeah.
whatnot. And so a lot of times as soon as somebody scrapes their knee, they're like, "Mommy," like that's just their instinct. So a lot of times we are called upon and we feel like we have to be everything for everyone. And so if you see a mom that's struggling or going through something, a lot of times it's as simple as like I've had people bring me home cooked meals at the hospital that I didn't even know I needed.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
like my dad saying, "Okay, this started back whenever I was pregnant, but he was like, "Okay, what can I do to help?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I
I
don't know."
know.
Maybe because I want to be there at Anastasia's gymnastics. I want to watch that. I want to
I
take
know.
Matthew to football. I want to
I
do, I
know.
want to do all of the
I
things. So
know.
it's
Yeah.
like it's hard to be like okay, you do this. But then that, because then it also looks like me missing out, you know?
I
So
know.
it's very
Yes.
hard. But whenever so for medical moms, when someone offers, take the help. Or mom's going through a hard time, take the help. And for moms that, maybe the season is a little bit lighter for you, offer the help. Offer
Yeah.
just anything. It could be as far as like, hey, does your kid, like, if a mom has multiple children, hey, can I pick up this child and like take them out or whatever, and just give that mom, I don't know, 30 minutes to be a mom of one or a
Yeah.
mom of two or something, because individualized time with each kid is very special and important too. So yeah, it's just the small things, it's really,
Yeah.
we underestimate the impact little things can make, but they really do make a difference, even if it's only 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. And it's more of realizing that there's support sometimes
Mhm.
than the actual support itself. It's like,
Right,
oh, you showed up and you gave me 10 minutes. And now I know next time I'm going through something, maybe I can call you. And it's just like
right,
knowing that you have someone there, kind of. It's
right.
like,
Or just knowing that you're seen.
yeah,
Even if
yeah,
it's
that's
not next time, it's
part of
like
it.
someone sees that I'm struggling and
Yeah,
they want to help. Even if they can
yeah,
only help this one time, they
yeah,
are setting aside their time where they could be doing literally anything else. Instead of going to get my nails done, I'm going to see if I can watch Emmy and take her to the park for 15 minutes.
yeah,
Something
yeah,
so simple like that. It's just like, it's like silently saying to another mom, I see you. I see you're struggling, or I see you need a break. They might not even be struggling. I see you need a
yeah.
break. Here's 15
Yeah.
minutes to yourself just to do something that you enjoy.
Because I love you and I know
Yeah.
you're a little bit underwater and I just want to
Hmm.
be there. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's so true. It's so true. It's
Right.
still, it is still hard for me, even in the hospital, to accept help a lot of times. Like,
Hard.
I have to be drowning to really accept help because, and part of it too is like, I'm scared to leave the room because I want to be there if the doctors walk by, or what if something happens the minute that
Right.
I'm gone? Because it is
That's the
life or
fear. It's
death.
always like, as in our minds, I feel like as moms, we feel like as soon as this, that's gonna happen or
Yes, as
something
soon
that
as
I'm
I
gonna
take a
miss.
break,
Right.
everything's going to go crazy. And
Right.
but yeah, finding people that you trust and love and that can just, but that's very hospital specific, I know. But yeah, it can be hard to accept help. And that's why I think I've appreciated people who just have just done things or like they'll text me and just like, hey, I'm stopping by. I know you might not have time to see me, but I'm going to drop off food or what like,
Right.
and then if I do have time, I'm like, great, I'm going to buy you a coffee and, we can take 15 minutes to chat. Or if I can't, then it's like, okay, they just did this thing. And that is so, so kind.
Right. And it's like such a circular thing too, where it's like, it's not like oh, I'm gonna drop off some food for you this day. Okay, this goes back to that expectation, right? Like whenever you do something kind for someone else, it's not attached with expectations of like, okay,
Yes.
next time I'm going through something, they better do this for me too. It's like, no, you just do it out of the goodness of your heart and because you want someone to know that you do care. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about you, you're seen, you're doing a wonderful job, whatever it is, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think
Yeah.
I just feel like if you let go of attachments in so many scenarios in life,
Yeah.
you live a
I
happier
know.
life.
Yeah,
You
I
just live a
agree.
happier
I
life.
know. I agree. I agree. I feel like that's the theme that we keep hitting on today.
Right.
Well, we're almost at the top of the hour, but last time we talked about so many great things that we didn't get to in this episode because
Yeah.
one of the things that we talked about a lot last time that we haven't touched on at all is how dedicated you are to therapy for your
Yes.
family, both for
I had a feeling
yourself
that's where you were going.
and for your kids. And I'm
Right.
like, just an encouragement. I think, yeah, I want you, we'll talk about this later, but I definitely think you should do a resource on this because, yeah, I think it's easy for all of us to say we don't have time for X number of things, for for health, for eating right, for therapy, whatever. But the fact that you have dedicated your time and your family's time, like you send your kids too, because of all of this stuff,
Right.
is just such an encouragement and such a motivator for me to reassess and be like, what is the most important thing here? Me being healthy, mental, like me being processing everything that's happened, being more, helpful for my kids, and then, well, for my kid, and then for Emmy to have a
Are
healthy
you trying to
outlook
tell us something?
on,
No.
yeah. Still not there. Still not there. But and for her to grow up understanding and having another outlet that's not just mom. I
Hmm.
mean, she's so young, it's okay that we're her only outlet. But at
Right.
some point in life, I would like for her to have someone else to talk to that's not just mom and dad. So,
Right.
anyways, that was a huge part of what we talked about before that inspires
Yeah.
me about you.
Exactly. I mean,
Um,
I know we don't have a lot of time and I'm not going to go deep into it, but I think just in general, like, especially having somebody that's approaching their teenage years, even if Santi had never gone through this, I feel like it's important for them to have an outlet. I think it's very naive of me to think that he's going to tell me everything and I'm going to be able to help him with everything, you know?
right, right.
I don't have the tools. First of all, I've never been a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You
Fair.
know,
Good
so it's
point.
just like, I just want I don't even know if they even touch base. I just know like play therapy is so different than
Mm,
like adult therapy. And so I don't even know. Those therapists are very skilled at identifying different things, you know, and I'm happy that they have an outlet to talk about whatever it is they need to talk about when it comes up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that so much. And then yeah, real quick, I also loved last time we got into how you spend time talking to your different children about Santi in particular and what he's gone through and going through. And so maybe just share your story about when you're doing dressing cleanings with Santi, because that I just feel like even if you're not a medical mom, finding little pockets of time that's kind of you and your child's designated one-on-one, this is a safe space, let's talk about how you're doing, is so impactful. And so if you're not a medical mom, it doesn't have to be while you're doing a dressing cleaning. Maybe it's a date night once a week, maybe it's you have a coffee slash whatever they drink, out on the porch for 10 minutes every Tuesday. But yeah, talk about how you've done that with Santi.
Yeah, that's our sacred time, I feel. And I like you said, it doesn't have to be dressing change. It could be like I'm helping. Like I don't know, I've just learned to recognize like I guess it's easy whenever there's so many kids in the house. It's like this is quiet. Like let's chat, you know? And so it could be like doing homework, you know, and I'm sitting here with you helping you learn this concept and it just naturally spirals into how do you feel about this? And then, you know, they kind of lead it. So I guess it's in that same way where therapists do that play therapy where it's very child led. But specifically during the dressing changes, I take the time to assess, you know, how the dressing is doing, if he's having any pain, any of that. And then we just chat about literally anything or any, you know, I'm like, oh, do you want to put music on? Do you want to do this? So sometimes it'll be like a little jam session where we're just both singing and I'll let him pick the songs from his little playlist. Or he could talk about a game, a video game that he likes because he's a big gamer. And so, you
Yeah,
know, just we take that time because it is a sterile process. Only so many people can be there. Like Anastasia
yeah.
can come with her mask on. Anybody can be around with their mask on, but like,
Explain what a dressing change is really quick because it's a lot more intense, I think, than I
yeah, I
some people
actually
just might not know what a dressing change is.
right. I was talking to my mom about another medical mom that I met while inpatient, and her child went home on a G tube. And my mom was like, oh, that's not as invasive as like the dressing, like
Yeah.
change it, like doing all the things. And I didn't know that. Like that seems very scary to me. But so Santi has a mechanical pump that is supporting his left ventricle. That was the one that was very enlarged when he was hospitalized. So essentially, the pump is doing everything. Like his heart, that chamber of his heart is chilling, and the
Yep.
pump is doing it for him.
Yep.
But the trade-off is there is a little drive line that comes out of his abdomen and it connects to the controller unit where we can see how the pump is like the different settings of the pump and then a battery pack. So he can either plug up into the wall at night or he plugs into the batteries and he wears it on a little backpack. That little driveline site is very, very prone to infection. And he takes antibiotics regularly to minimize any like driveline infection, but I do have to change the dressing at least 3 times a week. And so what that looks like is right there at the driveline site, we're cleaning it with this solution called Bosch. It like essentially kills everything, but gentle enough on the skin. And then you have to dress it back. So you have to cover it so that it doesn't get wet or no bacteria can get in there. And so we do that at least 3 times a week. And I know people are probably like, how does he shower? He only wants to shower 3 times. Well, I mean, I don't think he would ever shower if he had it. I'm like, no, we're doing this. So, I mean, there's times, and it's difficult too because like whenever he's having more pain, we've realized that the dressing changes help. So sometimes it looks like every day I'm doing the dressing change.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
again, back with the letting go of the expectations. Another thing is I have to do his vitals every day. I have to take his blood
Hmm.
pressure, and he can't use a cuff because with that pump, it won't come up correctly with the cuff. So I have to use a little Doppler, like a pregnancy Doppler type thing. I use
Wow.
that. I listen for a pulse, and then I do the cuff manually like that. And then I have to listen for the pulse to come back. We do weight checks every day, temperature, we check his settings on the pump, and we do a little self test to make sure it's still alarming in case anything were to come up. Thankfully, he's not had any alarms, but
Mm,
we check it every day to make sure that it still does. And so it's a lot to do every day. And sometimes we do it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes we do it at 11:59 at night.
yep.
It just depends.
Yep.
Like every day is different. And that's what I meant by like feeling like I'm playing catch up or chasing behind something
Mm,
because I've had to let go of routine. There is no routine here.
yeah.
And there's also that morning of this isn't the way I want to parent. I want there to be
Yeah.
structure. I want there to be this, but like working from home, having an infant, having all four kids at home, there just is no structure. I'm sorry. There's not going to be structure. I'm going to get
Fair.
to it
Yeah.
when I get to it, you know?
Yep. Yep.
I'll be lucky enough to get to it today. That's
Totally.
the only expectation I have is like get it
Yeah.
done today. It doesn't matter what time, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And the mom, I mean, I'm so blessed even with the his caregivers because they constantly praise me. They're like, I don't know how you do it. You're always so nice and neat and organized. I can even show you like I made my own papers. They had their papers, but then they said I didn't need to track certain information. So I made my own paper of his little things. And so I just write it every single
Wow.
day. And I have to track how much he takes in and out each day to, or not out, but how much fluid he drinks because that affects the pump and how his
Yeah.
heart's working and, all the things. And so
Mm,
I made my own little like checklist sheet and they're just like, you're so neat and organized. I would, on their old forms, it was like hour by hour. They had it listed out of like how much they would drink. And then like,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the first 6 hours, this total, then this total, and then the total for the day. And I would highlight it and calculate it. They're like, you've even calculated it for us.
That is incredible. Oh my gosh.
But yes, I will write up something, just like my thoughts on therapy, because I do
Yeah.
think that was like so crucial for me in this moment. Even before, like, I found out Santi's heart failure was in January, scheduled his revision surgery, March 5th, 2025, and then found out I was pregnant with baby number four, March 6th, 2025, like not even
Wow.
4 hours later. And at that moment, I was like, I'm getting back in therapy because I'm gonna spiral. I will spiral if I do not. So
Yeah. Which again, sometimes necessity is what brings about positivity, change,
right,
joy, all of the good things that we need in life and that are actually better decisions. Sometimes it takes getting pushed to the end in order to
right,
choose that. But again, I still just think, even so, especially if you're not at your end, be encouraged by this and take the time to do whatever it is that your health and your mental health, physical, whatever it is needs, and by listening to your body, like you've been talking about.
right.
It's so good. Thank you so much for coming
Of
back
course.
again
Of course.
and putting up with this.
I am
Yeah.
happy to be here.
I
Happy to
just
share my journey.
Oh, you're such an encouragement. And so if you're a medical mom, especially a heart mom, or if you just want to be able to follow Amber's story, well, really, it's Santi's story. She's really great about posting all of the updates so that other people, well, one, just the support and love and prayer from the community can see and follow. But also, it's such an encouragement to other medical moms who might have questions about how things work or the systems and all of it. So I will post a link if I can. I don't know if I can post a link, but maybe I can just link to your Facebook. And then if people want
Yeah.
to join, they can message you or something like that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so that you guys can see that if you want to. But yeah, thank you again for encouraging me. I got a double dose of Amber encouragement and for encouraging all of the other moms out there that are navigating a lot. We all are, and it all looks different, but I just feel like, yeah, you are one mom that continuously shows up positive. Even like you said, you're like, this week has just been rough. Like I've not been doing great. And here you are smiling away. So grateful for you. Thank
Just
you
listen to your
so much.
body. Your body
Listen to your
says,
body.
and if it when in doubt, rest. Because I think
Oh,
that's something that we do not, as moms, like
yes.
recognize as easily. Our bodies don't say, "Hey, you need to rest," but that's
Yep.
probably what it's trying to tell you.
Sleep. We all need
Right.
sleep. Well, thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Bye, Amber.
Bye.